Okay, let's try and test it. We are live streaming this meeting to YouTube. And we're here to talk about the weekly portion, which is, let's say, for a Reform Jew, especially for Reform Rabbi, a Parashat Kdoshim, okay, saint, holy, is maybe the most important portion in the Torah, because since we believe that ritual commandments, ritual tradition, ritual is not what's important, but the ideals, the way we believe, the way we think, the way we behave outside our particular culture. Since we believe this is what's important, the universalistic approach, Parashat Kdoshim is the best text to teach us how we should behave, how we should be. And let's say the commandments of Parashat Kdoshim are difficult to do, and also very complicated to measure, because the ritual commandments, you can measure them. Okay, you read, and you should say these words on the time you getting up and on the time you go to sleep. And you know that this specific text, you repeat it twice a day, in the morning and in the evening, you can measure it. And you should wrap it on your hand, and you should put it on your hand. You know what to do. You should write it on your doors. Or you should eat it with the leavened bread and the unleavened bread and the bitter maror. How do we say maror? Like the bitter herbs. Okay? Like when we're talking about the ritual, we have specific the first commandment of our weekly portion. The first is you should be saint because I'm saint. I'm your God and I'm saint. But let's leave it aside. First specific commandment is Ish imo ve'aviv tirau. A person should not be afraid, but person should not honor. It's not soft like honor. Yir'ah. It's some sort of how do we say yir'ah? It's not frightened. It's not afraid of. It's like giving some sort of dignity. To person should feel sense of dignity towards its parents. Okay, and there's a question. How do we know a person actually feels dignity towards his parents? We cannot know. We cannot measure them. There are some ways in the Talmud that when rabbis try to give a basic yummy, we are broadcasting. Okay, when the rabbis try to give explanations.
Hey, come here. Yeah, stop.
Table. What does it mean? What does it mean to feel such feeling? But we cannot really know. You should not hate your brother in your heart. How do we know? We know about ourselves when we hate or we don't. How do I know if you hate someone in your heart? There's no one except of God who can know. You should love your neighbor as yourself. How can we measure such commandment? We have another. This is my most favorite. You should, let's see the translation here. This is important enough to read the proper translation to English.
Abhishek, can you take a picture of the rabbi with the book and
So,
tell us? With that.
here, chapter 19, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17. Reprove your neighbor, but incur no guilt because of him. Again, reprove your neighbor, but incur no guilt because of him. This is a very interesting text because in Hebrew, it can be interpreted in two different meanings. Okay? Again, reprove your neighbor because if you don't, you will incur guilt, you will be guilty as him. Or reprove your neighbor, but beware, if you're reproving too hard, you will have the guilt. Do you understand? So this is two different meanings. Okay? You should tell someone he's wrong, but you should not tell it in the wrong way.
Okay.
Do you understand? It requires a very it requires from us some sort of very careful behavior. Like if you want to fulfill this commandment, you cannot be silent, but you cannot be too pushy. These commandments are so difficult to fulfill. לומדים בחוץ. ישנו אורח.
He's a student.
And many others. Let's see. You shall not render an unfair decision. Do not favor the poor or show deference to the rich. Judge your neighbor fairly. Who, besides of the judge or God, can know if the judge judged fairly? No one. No one except of two persons. The one who is doing or not doing that, and God. So these commandments are very difficult to understand if a person is keeping them or not, which makes them actually the most important commandments of the Torah.
Wow.
Because this what makes us good people. Let's tell the truth. Let's tell the truth. Observing traditions doesn't make a person, doesn't necessarily make a person better. No, but it's not. But observing moral commandments, that's what makes a person a better person. I'm going a bit forward.
Would you ever say that about Orthodox Jews? The fact that they observe tradition to the letter of the law?
No, I believe this is, if you ask me, I believe this is the problem with the Orthodox Judaism, that they put the ritual beyond all. Ritual is the most important.
Okay.
And I believe ritual is less important.
Okay. I agree with you.
Right?
So. Some more. Now we're eating dirt. Come. Okay, come. You've been such a good boy all day. Honest, you've been perfect.
Many of these commandments have an addition, you shall fear your God. For example, in verse 32, you shall rise before the aged and show deference to the old. You shall fear your God, I'm the Lord. In Masechet Kdoshim, in the Babylonian Talmud, there's a question why it's written that you should honor the elder people, comes together with you should fear God. Why? Because no one except of God can know if you really respect elder people. It comes with many other commandments here in Parashat Kdoshim. Why? Because no one except of God could know if we really fulfill these commandments. So this comes with the God's fear. That's why the Haredim call themselves Haredim. What does it mean, Haredim? Those who have fear. Yeah, they fear God, but they fear God, and that's why they wear the specific clothes. They fulfill all the rituals, but it doesn't mean that it makes them better people.
It doesn't mean that
they're better people if they keep all the rituals.
Okay.
Because the fear of God should move us not to wear specific clothes. Fear of God should endorse us to behave as moral people. When a stranger resides in your land, you shall not wrong him. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I, the Lord, am your God. The question that I usually ask about this portion is, what does it mean to be saint? Right, the beginning of the portion teaches us you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. What does it mean to be holy? And we see in this portion that being saint, being holy, means to keep our ways in different dimensions. It means to be holy in our personal lives, in our family relationships, in our personal religious use, and also in the society. You should honor the stranger. You shall not falsify measures of length, weight, or capacity. You shall have an honest balance, honest weight, and honest a fine, honest thing. Right? It's like when you do business, You can also be holy. You can also be saint when you do business. Business, the most not saint thing we can think of. Again, being holy means being holy in everything we do. I, the Lord, am your God, who freed you from the land of Egypt. You shall faithfully observe all my laws and my rules. I am the Lord.
שונה משאר הפסוקים,
באיזה מובן?
איש אמו ואביו תיראו, ואז הכניס את השבת.
וצ'פטותת ישמו. But Avishag asked about why parents, the commandment about parents comes together with the commandment about Saturdays, Shabbatot. But also in 10 commandments it comes together. The fourth commandment, the fourth saying, Adibera Revi'i, is about Shabbat, and the fifth is about parents. It comes together. Because, I'll explain, because Shabbat is, first of all, a family experience. Shabbat is an opportunity for the whole family to be together. Okay? So the whole verse is talking about the quality of our family relationship with our parents, and the quantity. Like at least once a week, we should have a day to be with our families. Okay, this is why it's coming together. And after that, this is the traditional interpretation. This is the traditional interpretation. I'm not sure I like it. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about bringing holiness to our families. Okay, not say like, okay, synagogue is the holy place. I'm coming to synagogue, I feel closer to God. In my home, it's not synagogue, it's not a holy place, I don't feel closer to God. This is wrong. Okay? This is wrong. We should be closer to God at home, outside in the streets, in the synagogue, in our job, everywhere.
My father, who was born in Odessa, I remember him saying, you can be close to God in the fields.
Right.
It's the best place.
Yeah. Everywhere. Fields, mysticism,
I remember him saying
Jewish mystics, Mekubalim, they like the field or the forest, yes. But also everywhere, anywhere, in the crowd, outside, everywhere. The second half is more strict. The second half of the portion is more strict. It's talking about punishments for those who, yes, if a man commits adultery with a married woman.
Hey. No, okay.
At the end of this portion, there are some commandments about forbidden sexual relationships, in addition of what we learned about Achrei Mot, the previous weekly portion, but saying that not just the genetic incest is forbidden, but also a sexual relationship inside the family if you are not connected with blood to someone. Okay, telling that our family relationships should be pure, pure, not just genetically, not the. It's not about genetics. It's about keeping our family clear, pure, whole, with W. Okay, wholeness of the family. Uh, this is what I have to say about the weekly portion. It's short. I don't have so much to speak, but if you have questions about some specific commandments, we can talk about them. Yes, and it's not just every verse hukim and mitzvot. It's also that every verse is bringing another point of view. Like for example, after the verse about parents and Shabbatot, it's coming a few verses about how you should bring your sacrifice. And I'm asking, like, how it's connected to our life today? And the answer I'm thinking about is that, let's say, okay, let's say, it's not just about sacrifices, it's also about our religious life. Like when it's written, you should eat it on the first day and second day and third day. It's say like you cannot keep a religious feeling for a long time. You should always find sources. Should always find sources to fill more, to fill your religious feelings again and again. Okay? It cannot be that you open the Torah once a week or thinking about words of Torah just once a week, because it's not enough. At least once in 3 days, twice a week, you should find your connection to your religious feeling. If you believe, it's like you cannot keep living with the faith without doing anything.
Who says so?
People who come to synagogue once a year on Yom Kippur, they believe.
No, you say twice a week. Why twice a week and not 3 times a week?
3 times a week. It's once in 3 days. That's where the tradition of reading the Torah, Sheni Chamishi, Mondays, Thursdays, and Shabbatot comes. Also from here, like once in 3 days. It's like coming to synagogue once a year on Yom Kippur. It's not enough. It's not enough.
That's why.
Yes, this is the reason. This is the reason. No, that's what I just said. That we read the Torah at the synagogues. We read the Torah on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Why? Because we don't want to be more than 3 days without the Torah. This is the reason. Yes. So it's like,
I'm very happy that they gave me this book.
Yes.
As heavy as it is.
Yes. What else? Questions? Thoughts?
What can we do to be better Jews? What can we do?
We should start with the commandments from this portion. Do not hate in your heart. Do not revenge. Do not keep your insulted. Do not be insulted. Do not keep the in, like if someone insulted you, don't keep it in your heart.
Okay. I've come a long way to find out the answer to that
Yeah,
question.
yes. So it's all here. Chapter 19, Leviticus chapter
Okay.
19.
I mean, I left a home in Park City, Utah,
Yeah.
a big home, and a lot of friends, and came here. And it was a big step
Yes.
alone. Look how cute.
Okay, we should end the. I will end the live streaming because it's good enough for.
תודה רבה.